U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered the Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group and its accompanying aircraft to the waters around Central and South America, a move that would likely add some 5,000 troops to the region and significant firepower designed to ratchet up pressure against the Venezuelan government. The strike group, which is currently operating near Croatia, would likely need at least several days, if not weeks, to arrive, suggesting that a military attack against Venezuela is not imminent. The move raises questions about Trump's pressure campaign aimed at getting Venezuela's president to step down. Trump recently threatened a direct attack on Venezuela. So far, the military has struck 10 alleged drug vessels in the region, including 8 of them near the coast of Venezuela. But all of those attacks have all been in international waters. Recall USS Gravely, a guided missile destroyer with US Marines on board, docked in Trinidad and Tobago's capital. The warship is in the Caribbean nation for a 4-day visit, which will include joint training with local defense forces. Venezuela has criticized the Caribbean nation of Trinidad and Tobago, which lies just off its coast, for conducting a joint military exercise with the United States and allowing a U.S. warship to dock. Venezuela denounces the military provocation of Trinidad and Tobago, in coordination with the CIA, aimed at provoking a war in the Caribbean. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's administration said in a statement, Trinidad and Tobago lies just 11 kilometers from Venezuela's coast, at its closest point. In the statement posted by Executive Vice President Delcy Rodriguez on her Telegram channel, Venezuela accused the island nation of acting as a military colony for the United States to conduct war across the Caribbean against Venezuela, against Colombia, and against all of South America. In this case, reports of the arrival in Venezuela of military transport aircraft linked to the Russian private military company Wagner suggest that Russia is plotting to draw the United States into its Ukraine, that is, to turn the operation to overthrow Nicolas Maduro into a protracted and costly conflict for Washington. Analysts note that in principle, such a scenario appears entirely plausible. However, to implement it, Moscow would require close coordination with Beijing. However, if Russia, China, and Venezuela manage to establish the necessary coordination, the United States could sorely regret taking this step. Analyzing the potential requirements for such an operation, experts emphasize the need for a large troop concentration, robust logistics, well-trained local security forces, long-term stable funding, and an adequate level of political coordination. Otherwise, a good plan could turn into an adventure with difficult-to-predict consequences. It's worth noting, however, that the US has so far hesitated to launch a ground operation, limiting itself to the destruction of a few fishing boats and issuing angry statements. It's possible that Washington is also unsure that an invasion of Venezuela will be swift and victorious, rather than turning into another Afghanistan for the US.
All right, Shalom. Let's start up saying, Call Halayim La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Harakak Radash Ma'amat. Double honors to the elder apostles, the great millstone, double honors to my elder apostle as well, Herwan Banyar Charlotte down here in the Lions Den camp. Salutations to the Akim that are pushing the truth, sincerity, and truth. And peace and blessing to the men, women, and children that believe in the name Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahweh Shai. All right, I'm Khalak Sa'an Banyar Charlotte from the Lions Den Yah Charlotte camp. And this is another Lions Den news and prophecy. All right, let's go. This is the second Ezra 15 and 1. It says, Speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written on paper, because they are faithful and true. All right. It says, Fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Right. So it doesn't matter. what anybody says. We're going to keep continuing to speak these prophecies. And this is kind of major right here because um, um, uh, America has sent a whole bunch of fleets of warships to the Caribbean, and a couple of those ships have docked on Trinidad and Tobago, right? And looking or like they're really pump faking trying to get Maduro to step down. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's why they beefing everything up. But however, what was Russia's response to that? Russia sent Wagner's fighters to Venezuela to fight US military. So now what this is becoming into a war between Moscow and Washington. See that? And what are Wagner troops? It says, I looked it up on AI. It says the AI overview says Wagner fighters were part of a Russian paramilitary group, often described as a private military company, PCM, known for its involvement in conflicts in Ukraine, Syria, and several African countries. All right. So now it says, following the death of its leader, you get, I don't know, and subsequent events, the group has been broken up, with its fighters being absorbed into other Russian military structures like the African Corps and other PMCs such as the Redoubt. But what happened is they my friend, let me see something. They're apparently being reconstructed again, um and being sent over there to Venezuela. And just like I said in the video, it said that this could be the worst move that America made, especially if if Venezuela gets the alliance of Russia and China. You know Iran's gonna step in. That's gonna be hell for America, man. They're already, you know what I'm saying, stretching themselves thin by the funding that they're giving Ukraine. Then they talking about giving Ukraine Tomahawk missiles so they can reach enter in the inner parts of Russia, right? um, right. So I'm slacking. I'll just read something real quick. So now and wait a minute. What was that when the economy collapsed in Venezuela when they're trying to change the regime to Guaido? They were trying to take Maduro out. Right. I got a friend of mine. I'm not really say a friend, but a guy I used to work with. He's actually from Brazil, but he was living in Venezuela for a long time, and he said himself like majority of the people like Maduro. So that's what was said, that the people elected Maduro, right? But this puppet ruler that America wanted in there, that's who America. It was Guaido. America tried to force him in there in 2014, and then collapsed the economy of Venezuela to where people were making paper mache um figurines out of the Venezuelan peso because it was worth nothing at that time. But then who came into the rescue? Russia came to the aid of Venezuela and stabilized their economy back, helped stabilize their economy. You see that? But now America's going after Venezuela again and targeting boat vessels, saying saying they were drug vessels, right? But check this out. Look at the war on drugs here in America. The war on drugs here in America was against the so-called black man. See that? How? Because what did they do? How did the drugs get in our neighborhoods in the first place? They put them there. Now, granted, we shouldn't have sold them, but you know, when you're in a situation like that where you have nothing and you see an opportunity, they turn our people into opportunists to take advantage of stuff, even not looking at the fact that it was going to hurt ourselves and hurt our communities and hurt our people. You know, that drastic times calls for drastic measures. So, so what the scripture says, the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor. The ways of the wicked seduces them. You see that? So now you got you got America sending all those ships over there in the Caribbean and South America, right? Kind of surrounded, mind you, and then at one point in time, Russia had a submarine off the coast of Cuba. I don't know if they still got it there, but you know, if America calls itself trying to thinking that they're gonna run into Venezuela and do some damage and get back out and change the regime like they tried to do in the Middle East, they said this could turn into another Afghanistan. You see that? So so what's gonna happen is America's gonna keep involving itself in these wars. This is gonna be like a proxy. Not it's like right in between a proxy and a major conflict because even though this stuff is happening around Venezuela, the fact that Russia's sending like a private military group over there, the to aid Venezuela against the provocation of the United States is a direct proxy. It's like a proxy, but it's like a direct encounter between these two nations. Because, like what it says in the title of this article, it says it's like a war between Moscow and Washington. See that? All right, it says geopolitical tensions are rising in the Americas. Reports indicate that Russian private military contractors have arrived in Venezuela. At the same time, the United States has increased its military presence in the region. Global powers are increasing their involvement while local governments respond. Analysts are assessing potential risk and possible impacts of this development, right? What and this development is going to ultimately lead. All these little things are happening is just to pull America into um 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 the war of Yahushua or Hamagadwan, right? Or gathering of troops, rendezvous gathering of troops, and ultimately lead into direct conflict between Russia and the United States. Because Russia's gonna be the one that's gonna be sending everything off. People act like they forget that Russia is a top dog when it comes to nuclear arsenal, and then they're allied with China. China is the top dog when it comes to a navy fleet. See that? And they gonna link up with Iran. And Iran is a top dog in hatred towards the United States of America. So it's not looking good for the U.S. with them trying to flex their muscles. This ain't happened like this since they dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they put all these countries in fear. Nobody's been able to stand up to the United States like this. Now it's been talks like North Korea does a lot of talking and they do a lot of pump faking, but like Russia ain't playing. What does it say? It says this. Hold on, real quick. Let me get this real. Is it in this one? Hold on, let me check something real quick. Whew, boy, this is beautiful though. You know, we got all the stuff. I was talking to the elder on the phone earlier, and he got this man got some more evidence on this three-eye atlas on what it could possibly be. I ain't gonna spill the beans, I'm gonna wait for him to drop it. But man, we almost out the fuck of here. Excuse my Spanglish.